Why did Japan isolate itself for 200 years, unraveling the mysteries of Sakoku? Imagine a nation deliberately turning its back on the world, choosing seclusion over engagement. For over 2 centuries, Japan did just that. But why? Join us as we delve into the historical, cultural, and political forces that drove Japan's extraordinary experiment in isolation. The year is 1635. While European powers aggressively expanded their empires, Japan embarked on a radically different path. This island nation, once a vibrant center of international trade, abruptly severed ties with the outside world. This period, known as Sakoku, or closed country, lasted for 2 centuries, shaping Japanese society in profound ways. What drove this dramatic decision? Was it fear, a desire for cultural purity, or a calculated political strategy? The answers lie in a complex interplay of factors that continue to fascinate historians and cultural analysts alike. This documentary explores the motivations, consequences, and enduring legacy of Japan's self-imposed isolation. Envision a stark scene: a Japanese beach in 1597, stained crimson with the blood of crucified Portuguese missionaries and their Japanese converts. This brutal act served as a chilling warning against challenging the authority of Japan's rulers. It was a prelude to Sakoku, a period of unprecedented national seclusion. The crucifixions were not an isolated incident, but a harbinger of a far more comprehensive isolationist policy, observes historian Kenneth Pyle. Japan's subsequent quarantine was one of the most thorough and enduring in world history, born from a potent mix of fear and strategic calculation. To truly understand the roots of Sakoku, we must journey back to the initial encounters between Japan and the West. In 1543, Portuguese traders landed on Tanegashima Island, introducing firearms and Christianity to Japan. These seemingly innocuous imports would irrevocably alter the nation's destiny. The arrival of these traders marked a turning point in Japanese history, setting in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to the country's self-imposed isolation. Within a decade, Japanese artisans mastered the production of matchlock rifles, revolutionizing warfare in a land fractured by civil strife. Simultaneously, Jesuit missionaries led by Francis Xavier achieved remarkable success in converting Japanese to Christianity. By the early 17th century, the Christian population had swelled to approximately 300,000. These developments posed a fundamental challenge to Japan's feudal structure, built on rigid hierarchies and deeply ingrained traditions. The introduction of firearms fundamentally altered the dynamics of power, explains historian John Whitney Hall. A commoner with a gun could now challenge the authority of a samurai, disrupting centuries of martial tradition and social order. However, the most significant threat was not technological but ideological. In 1600, Tokugawa Ieyasu emerged victorious from decades of civil war, unifying Japan under his rule. The Tokugawa Shogunate, which he established, would govern Japan for over 250 years. Determined to maintain their hard-won peace, they viewed foreign influence with deep suspicion. The Tokugawa leaders observed the unfolding events in other parts of Asia with growing alarm. In the Philippines, Spanish colonization followed closely on the heels of missionary activity. In China, European traders manipulated local politics for their own economic gain. The pattern was clear: missionaries, merchants, and then military conquest. The Tokugawa shogunate was not driven by mere xenophobia, but by a shrewd understanding of power dynamics, argues historian Conrad Totman. They recognized the threat posed by European colonialism and resolved to prevent Japan from becoming its next victim. Between 1633 and 1639, A series of edicts progressively tightened Japan's borders. Japanese citizens were forbidden from traveling abroad under penalty of death. Foreign books were banned. All Europeans were expelled with the exception of a small Dutch trading post confined to Dejima, an artificial island in Nagasaki harbor. This tiny outpost served as a carefully monitored window to the outside world. The Tokugawa shogunate's policies were draconian, but they were also remarkably effective. While Europe was engulfed in the 30 Years' War and colonial powers subjected indigenous populations to brutal exploitation, Japan enjoyed an unprecedented era of peace and cultural prosperity. Freed from the distractions of foreign wars and the burden of defense spending, Japanese culture flourished during the Edo period. Kabuki theater thrived, haiku poetry reached new heights of refinement, and woodblock printing evolved into a sophisticated art form. Literacy rates surpassed those of contemporary European societies. Far from being a period of stagnation, Japan's isolation fostered a unique cultural renaissance, observes art historian Mieko Murase. The very restrictions that cut Japan off from the world created the conditions for an unparalleled artistic explosion. The Japanese economy also prospered, with domestic industries developing without foreign competition. Cities grew into major urban centers. By 1800, Edo, modern-day Tokyo, was the world's largest city, with a population exceeding 1 million, surpassing London and Paris. However, beneath this veneer of prosperity, tensions were simmering. By the early 19th century, the world was changing too rapidly for Japan to remain isolated. Russian explorers probed Japan's northern territories. British and American whaling ships increasingly appeared off Japanese coasts. Western powers, fueled by the Industrial Revolution, sought new markets. In 1853, the arrival of Commodore Matthew Perry and his Black Ships, steam-powered warships that demonstrated the technological gap that had emerged during Japan's isolation, shattered the illusion of seclusion. Within a year, Japan signed the Convention of Kanagawa, opening 2 ports to American ships. The era of Sakoku had come to an end. Perry's arrival was a rude awakening for Japan, says historian Akira Irie. It revealed that isolation had become a liability, leaving Japan vulnerable to the forces of Western imperialism. When Japan finally opened its doors, it did so with remarkable determination. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 overthrew the Tokugawa shogunate and launched a sweeping program of modernization, encapsulated in the slogan Fukoku Kyohai, rich country, strong army. Within decades, Japan transformed itself from a feudal society into an industrial power, capable of defeating Russia in the Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905, the first modern victory of an Asian power over a European one. However, the psychological impact of Sakoku remained profound. Many scholars believe that Japan's complex relationship with globalization, its simultaneous embrace of foreign technology, and its fierce protection of cultural identity can be traced directly to the Sakoku experience. Japan's modern history is, in many ways, a dialogue with its isolationist past, observes anthropologist Emiko Onuki-Tierney. The questions raised during the Sakoku period about national identity, cultural preservation, and engagement with the outside world continue to shape Japanese society today. This tension between tradition and modernity, between isolation and engagement, continues to define Japan in the 21st century. It is evident in Japan's immigration policies and its unique adaptations of global pop culture. As we reflect on Japan's extraordinary experiment in isolation, the most compelling lesson may be this: A nation's defining characteristic is often not what it embraces, but what it chooses to reject. By choosing isolation, Japan forged its own unique path, a decision that continues to resonate through Japanese society today, nearly 2 centuries after the end of Sakoku. The Sakoku period stands as a testament to the idea that isolation can, paradoxically, strengthen a society's core identity. This makes Japan's self-imposed exile one of the most fascinating and thought-provoking episodes in world history. Now that you've explored the captivating story of Japan's isolation, delve deeper into this fascinating period. Research the key figures of the Tokugawa shogunate, explore the art and literature of the Edo period, and share this documentary with fellow history enthusiasts. Uncover the secrets of Sakoku and understand how they continue to shape Japan today.